Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. A really, really warm welcome to this edition of the New European Bauhaus in Regions and Cities event. So thank you all for being here. My name's Ian Graham. I will be your moderator for this morning's proceedings. And I really want to offer a very, very warm welcome to everyone joining us here this morning in person. Also to those of you joining us on the live stream online. And also welcome back to those of you who participated in some of the activities yesterday afternoon as well. For me, moments like this are really important for the ongoing development and mainstreaming of the new European Bauhaus, both at this European level, but also when implementing projects locally. There's a real thing about the people involved, the community they bring together, and the collaboration they bring. And in fact, the collaboration you all bring and the community you build by being part of this program and part of this event today as well. For me, it really embodies the together aspect of the new European Bauhaus. And it's great to see it at international level like this, connecting it with the local projects and allowing those local and regional projects to connect with this wider international context. Speaking of communities, yesterday there were some really important activities happened. There was a follow-on meeting of the NEB peer-to-peer community, which was initiated around the end of last year, start of this year, and has been building connections between people involved in the Bauhaus activities. And yesterday we had managing authorities, municipalities and others coming together to continue to build that community, making new connections, strengthening relationships. And as part of that as well, the finalists for this year's New European Bauhaus Awards were also part of that, involved in workshops on working with projects, hearing from things on the ground, getting inspiration of how to operate in this sort of context. And really also to bring them into this community and further expand it with more and more people being part of it. That was yesterday. Today is another day, and we have a very busy, very exciting, very rewarding day ahead of us. We've got some panel discussions, we've got chance and opportunities for networking, and I think for some of you, it might be more of a, not so much just a metaphorical rewarding day or a knowledge rewarding day, but later this evening, I think some of you are hoping for it to be a literally rewarding day at the awards evening later on today. So there's a lot to look forward to throughout today. It's easy to get distracted by the activities and the awards and so on, but it's good to remember that the awards and this event have an important function in helping to promote, support, and mainstream the new European Bauhaus principles and values into cohesion policy more generally. I think that note leads me quite nicely to handing the word across to our keynote speaker today to set the scene and introduce the proceedings for us. So I'd like to invite the Director General for DG Regio, Ms. Themis Christopoulou, to the stage to welcome us and launch today's event more formally. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. There's some of you still arriving. There are lots of seats at the front. Warm welcome to you, everybody. Good morning. It's great to be here with you today, not only for the very stimulating exchanges that are taking place even during coffee, but also in this venue that so perfectly embodies what we celebrate and discuss. UR Square is a remarkable example of urban transformation. Once a military barracks, today it has become a vibrant forum of international exchanges. Here at the heart of Brussels, made possible by the investments of cohesion policy. UR Square stands as a living expression of the new European Bauhaus, a historic site transformed into a sustainable and innovative hub, a place where universities, residents, and cultural and civil society come together, working together to co-create a more sustainable, inclusive, beautiful, and inspiring urban future. And today, more than ever, Europe needs these ideas. Today, more than ever, we need your inspiration. Because Europe's values are the same as they have always been: sustainability, inclusion, cleaner, greener, more beautiful regions and cities, which promote quality of life for everyone. But while these values remain the same and remain valid, today's world is changing. Artificial intelligence and the threat of a new digital divide, international competition where Europe must advance and innovate just to keep our position, geopolitical threats, the need for affordable housing, an aging population, and the need to train and retain the talents of young people, and many more changes, many more challenges. In this fast-changing world, we need new ideas and we need new projects. The intellectual and practical keys to unlock new opportunities in a changing context. Maintaining our European values of sustainability and inclusion, even as times move on. And this is the mission of the new European Bauhaus. This, too, has been the mission of cohesion policy. Together, we are finding the keys to shape the future. A sustainable future for Europe's regions and cities, working together to promote more inclusive societies, where our living spaces and experiences are accessible to everyone, not just to a few. The new European Bauhaus makes a unique contribution: the blend of environmental ambition with human-centered design. A welcome reminder that protecting the environment and improving quality of life are not two separate goals. Rather, they are part of one and the same vision, two sides of the same coin. The new European Bauhaus inspires us to stop, to think, and to ask the right questions. How do we build and live together in new and better ways? We always should start at the local level, in our streets, neighborhoods, communities, because these are the places where people's voices and participation matter the most. Cohesion policy has been a key supporter and promoter of the new European Bauhaus since its very beginning 5 years ago. Cohesion policy plays a crucial role, turning ambitions into reality. We do this through our investments. Already, cohesion programs across 18 member states are investing over 800 million euros in new European Bauhaus projects, both in dedicated calls for projects as well as in more general calls where explicitly put Bauhaus principles in the selection criteria. Across Europe, remarkable projects are already showing what it means in practice, transforming industrial sites into creative hubs, breathing new life into derelict heritage buildings, bringing together history, tradition, and innovation. The next session is dedicated to such examples. These initiatives and many others do more than just inspire us. They also show how existing project pipelines and ideas can be leveraged, embedding NEB values more systematically. We want to thank everybody for the incredible efforts and achievements so far, but we can and we must do more. The midterm review of cohesion policy is a key opportunity. I strongly encourage managing authorities to use this opportunity, shaping more investments in line with the NEB approach. I mentioned a moment ago that NEB projects are already being delivered in 18 member states, and this is a very encouraging start. But I know that all 27 member states have embedded the NEB values in at least one of their programs. And even with many of the 18 member states that are already delivering, more can be done. So let us continue to move from commitment to concrete implementation. We all know, in this room at least, and recognize the challenges. It takes time and it takes effort to mainstream the NEB in this way. Time and effort across all levels of planning, of investment, of implementation. We do recognize that these often look like bottlenecks in expertise, in capacity, in financing. This is why the European Commission has provided various tools to boost expertise and capacity, as well as financing. We strongly encourage regions and cities to seize each and every one of these opportunities. Several of these opportunities are being discussed today, including for affordable housing, small municipalities, and students, as well as the need for more systematic approaches, identifying and monitoring NEB-aligned projects already emerging on the ground, ensuring that these opportunities are captured and translated into concrete investments with lasting impacts. There are still a lot of chairs here on the side in front. I don't want you to stay standing. So, this two-way event plays an important role. It provides a platform to discuss the barriers and how to overcome them, to exchange and learn from inspiring examples, and to make the NEB more tangible, more practical, and real for everybody. And we have the right people right in this room. Over 400 experts and practitioners are here yesterday and today. NEB Prize finalists, cohesion policy managing authorities, beneficiaries and project promoters, NEB national contact points, those involved in the NEB boost for small municipalities, as well as many others. Yesterday, there was the second meeting of Regio peer-to-peer community dedicated to NEB. This is a crucial space for cohesion policy practitioners to exchange best practices and to exchange knowledge. The discussion focused on citizen engagement and participation, which is at the heart of the NEB. I am so grateful for your dedication. The knowledge gathered today and through other exchanges like this fuels our progress. So I do hope that this community will continue to grow. I encourage more local, regional, and national authorities to join, and indeed to become champions of the movement. I value the work of the NEB Prizes finalists enormously, as well as those participating in the NEB Boost for Small Municipalities. Special thank you to those. Across these two competitions, we received over 1,000 excellent applications, from completed projects fully delivering on the NEB values to the brilliant ideas of young people, as well as initiatives from small municipalities where communities are truly at the center. There is so much inspiration flowing from these projects, ideas, and initiatives. It is difficult to choose, but let me give just one set of examples. The applications for the NEB Affordable Housing Prizes. Affordable housing, we all know by now, is a very pressing need. And the projects we see today go beyond the simple construction and renovation. They create sustainable, connected living spaces that strengthen communities and improve people's quality of life. But it is not just the affordable housing projects that are inspiring us. Every one of the 1,000 applications is a special inspiration. Taken together, they represent a vibrant pool of ideas. I invite you all to dive in, to explore, to take inspiration, and to translate these solutions into the right recipes for your own city, your own region, your own community. Finally, I want to address my thanks to everyone who has helped make this event such a success already. to all who contributed in the debates yesterday and all who will do so today. And I want to thank also my team for the work for organizing this. It's not as simple as it seems, and it's never as seamless as it seems, but it's a great job done. I want to wish you a fruitful event filled with meaningful discussions and inspiring moments. We need to share freely from our knowledge, from our good practices, to build on the momentum that is already created, and to make NEB values and principles a reality for every city, every community, every region in Europe. We know that these principles, these values are creating lasting change. And I encourage you all to become architects, to become builders of this future. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for that introduction. I think it sets the scene really well for what we've got ahead of us today. And I think particularly setting out the scale of the challenges that face us, but also through this community, these programs, these projects, the scale of the opportunity we have to face those challenges. And I think that's a really clear backdrop and mandate for taking these things forward. And also a responsibility from us in this room to bring that change into implementation. As you so rightly said, these things start with conversations here, and that really underpins it, but it's about what we then can do with that really makes a difference. So I think that's a really helpful context for what we're taking forward today. So in that context, just let's look ahead briefly to what the day contains. We've got 3 panel discussions this morning with a really great lineup of panelists from different parts of Europe, different contexts, different tiers of government. And we'll be looking at various aspects of the new European Bauhaus in practice, building on yesterday's discussions further, and seeing how do we apply the NEB values in reality, and hearing from people working on these projects on a day-to-day basis, but also people working in the frameworks and policy context around these projects that support and enable us to deliver on the ground. We'll have a networking lunch here after that, at the end of the panels this morning, followed by further chances to make connections, to meet people, to hear other projects. And after all of that, you'll be making a short journey across the city to the European Parliament for the awards ceremony, for the European Bauhaus Awards this evening, which, as we've said, is hopefully going to be an inspiring moment and a very exciting moment, and particularly for some of you, many of you, I hope. But first, let's get into the discussions and move to the first of our panel sessions this morning. As from the remarks there, housing is a key element, and that's just the first of the context that we're going to look at within the panels this morning, looking at how the new European Bauhaus can contribute to addressing housing challenges, and we'll have insights from different levels, EU, national, project level, particularly looking at the integration of NEB values into housing solutions that are financed by cohesion policy. And also this other aspect that was mentioned, thinking about citizen engagement in the design and implementation process for housing solutions. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the first panelist to the stage. May, Casper, if you want to come up and join me. And if Stefan's hiding anywhere here, if he could come up and join, but I haven't yet seen him, so it might be a very small and cozy panel with the 3 of us this morning. But Casper, May, do come up and join me. And Stefan, if you arrive at any point, do come up and join us when you get here. So please come up and have a seat. So it's... So just to introduce who we have up here with us for this first panel, we have Kasper Alev, who's the head of housing policy at the Ministry of Climate of Estonia. And we have May Kuunimäki, I hope I said that right, who's an architect and urban planner at the city of Tallinn, and is a representative for the project Soft Academy. And perfectly timed. Oh, well, come and take a seat, Stefan. We have Stefan Moser from the European Commission's Housing Task Force in DG Energy from the European Commission. So welcome, everybody. You should all have a microphone somewhere if you haven't got one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just to put you on the spot, Stefan, as you've just walked in, I think in your role, you have a good overview of housing challenges in Europe and what that looks and feels like. And could you just set the scene for a bit about what you see as the main things? What are we actually trying to tackle here? What does it look like in practice, what we're trying to work against?
Well, I think it's...
Oh, yeah.
Good morning to all of you. Very happy to be with you. The new Bauhaus is an extremely useful exchange and coming together of practitioners, basically, to see how we find the best balance for the building stock, including, of course, on housing, on the residential building stock, because we have to combine several objectives at the same time. So that's sustainability, energy, climate, environment, material resources, security of materials even, but then also the quality aspects, quality of living, health, safety, and inclusion, integration of people in society, basically, especially of vulnerable people, and that needs to be affordable. So I think that is now the focus which has found particular attention, but already found attention before that, but with this new commission, that there's even, I would say now, a specific portfolio for a housing commissioner, Dan Jørgensen, to see how we can actually ensure that these three objectives go fully together. And I think the European Bauhaus is a venue where good practices examples can be established and tested, so that basically quality and sustainability will be affordable for everyone in society. So not to be seen as a project for those who can already afford it, but those who cannot afford it in principle, who live in squalid living conditions in the worst performing buildings, what to do in terms of renovations, but also new constructions, redesigning, repurposing, densification of buildings, what is possible here. So I think that's the context from my side, where the European Bauhaus can really create the thinking space, but also showcasing and replicating, expanding such good practices and experiences.
Yep. Thank you, Stefan. Do you see there's a distinction between people who are living in challenging housing and homelessness? Is that also a different dynamic? Is there ways that the Bauhaus affects different parts of the housing challenges differently, for example?
Well, I would say vulnerable citizens include also the homeless people, those who are basically just below what it takes to get into decent living conditions. Many people are also in very vulnerable shelter-like or unstable conditions or unsafe conditions. And I think there's not a hard border between those situations. Of course, you have those who really are without a roof, so in French, sans-abri, without a shelter, and those who are basically close to that, but still have a roof above their heads. So I think these people all need to be served, and we need to try to reinforce, of course, the approaches which provide them with decent housing, at the same time necessary support. So the so-called housing-led solutions. So that the first condition is that there's a physical space where they can be, where people can be accommodated and sheltered, not only as a kind of emergency temporary shelter, but as a permanent home where they can identify with, accompanied by additional support. So I think that relates to a number of people, the homeless in the strict sense, but also those people who are in difficult conditions or even unsafe conditions.
Yeah. And I guess in that sense, it's easy. Well, it's important to remember that we talk about housing as bricks and mortar, but it's actually about the people that housing is provided for, and the conditions they can live in, their prosperity in their lives, their well-being. It's actually all wrapped in that as well, isn't it?
Building communities in society. So not to have basically just physical shelter plus some support and that's it, but rather try to integrate and help integrate, become part of society, in brackets maybe again, yeah? So if they have dropped out and moved into difficult personal situations. So that is fully included, and I think there we need to work across housing policies and of course social policies, support integration in society, how to do that best, yeah? So to deinstitutionalize, to mix people, to make sure that people can inspire each other and from different walks of life and experiences. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's not a self-contained policy issue. It integrates with most other domains in some way or other. Yeah. Thanks, Stefan. I think that's really helpful to sort of set out a picture of the sort of challenges and what the new European Bauhaus can do. If I move to you, Kasper, and talk a little bit about trying to put these things into policy frameworks in practice, and that's something I think you have a bit of experience of, but do you see that as a challenging thing, as an easy thing about translating those values into something that you can work with on a practical level in projects and programs?
Yes, hi everybody, it's nice to be here this morning. Yes, I can't say that it's easy to do what you are suggesting. Clearly, on the political level, we don't have too many tools to influence, yet whenever we do housing policy, we try to bring in new European Bauhaus measures as much as possible. And when I talk about housing measures, it's mostly renovation financing, renovation of apartment buildings. And there, these NEB values, they are values. They are not specific criteria, and it's really difficult for us to translate the values into criteria. What is it that whoever uses our financing has to achieve? It's quite difficult. So what the tools that we have is, for example, to demand that whoever uses financing from us uses the assistance of an architect. But on the other hand, tools that we have are guidelines, toolboxes, and basically communication and showcasing of best practices.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. Obviously, it takes time, and but the best tool here are the good examples. People tend to kind of veer towards what has already been done, like what they have good emotions with. So whenever we get best practices like Maya will talk about, then hopefully these will inspire other people also to put more emphasis on our NEB values, the aesthetics, the accessibility, and the sustainability of homes.
And do you have particular things that you've seen as learning points that you've taken from seeing these projects in terms of how to evolve that approach, how to provide that toolkit in a different way? Have you you say it's evolved a bit. Can you give us a bit of an example maybe about the sorts of things that you've developed over time in terms of how you're approaching putting these principles into the frameworks?
Yeah. We do have a couple of toolboxes that we suggest or ask for whoever gets our financing to use whenever renovating. But we're on the first stages. It's the first versions of these guidelines, and we will see in next steps what we need to improve, how to make them more accessible to people, how to make them more understandable for people in order to use them. So I think it still takes some time to implement it, but I think we're in a good path already.
Good. So to try and think about looking at it more concretely, then, Maya, if I'm coming across to you to talk about the Soft Academy project, which is obviously then, I guess, one of these examples that you're sort of referring to in that sense, which is a neighbourhood regeneration project under the EUI, under the European Urban Initiative, but linked with the NEB values and principles. So can you just talk us through that and explain a little bit about the sort of strategies you've taken, how you've worked with that, and what that's looked like?
Yes. First of all, to talk about the Soft Academy project, I would like to introduce it to you in few words. I have 3 pictures from the project. First is the visual of the sort of outcome, what we want to achieve. It's currently in the state of we're trying to get a building permit for it. Mm-hmm. So we're quite far already. They're starting building quite soon. And the second picture. Can we see more? Oh, this is how the 4 buildings that we're now renovating, and we're also renovating and rebuilding the whole outdoor space as well. This is how the 4 buildings looked like. They have a distinct artwork on every building, made by Estonian artists, and yeah, it was quite soon understood back then even that these buildings need some sort of identity and personality. So this artwork was created, and I will come back to the artwork a little bit later. And then the third picture is how they are currently looking. Some of them are a little bit renovated as well, and the artwork is quite often covered up in the renovation process. So Soft Academy project is a neighborhood-based renovation project, and it's called Soft Academy because one of the project partners is Think Softer, from where David Sim has written the book Soft City. So Soft, and the Academy is just the name of the street where these buildings are. So, and sort of the things that we've done in this project are mostly related to having an architect on board from the day 1 or maybe even 0, and working together with the locals to sort of work out what the buildings would look like. Can we go back to the picture of what the project will look like in the end, the first picture? Yeah, this one, great. So we had 2 focus groups with all of the inhabitants of the buildings or locals. We didn't have a massive amount of people coming to the focus groups, but every building had representatives. And the people were able to play around with these modular renovation pieces and envision what they wanted to see in their buildings. So 2 of these buildings have elevators. Residents chose this. A lot of it was also related to the funding or how much it would cost for them. So 2 buildings chose not to have the elevators. And the buildings are funded by the locals, and the city will fund the outdoor space. And we also, next to the 2 focus groups, we organized a hackathon, where then 5 groups would sort of work on how to bring back the identity into this project. They worked specifically on the artwork on the walls of the buildings. It's a monumental art from the 60s. We are not able to sort of keep the art visible. We will cover it up, but we will preserve the art. And these 5 groups from the hackathon, they came up with the idea of preserving the art in a new form, or they would make new art in front of every entrance for the buildings. So there will be, every building has 4 pieces of art on pavements in front of the entrances. And for this, locals were also in the jury to choose what kind of a project they want in their neighborhoods. And finally, I would say we also have a soft box in the neighborhood, which is basically a sea container, where we sort of create a possibility to have social neighborhood events. We've organized neighborhood days, movie watching together, different sort of events on the courtyards there. Yeah, that's about it. I guess like having an architect related and then having a lot of these participation events.
And how did you see the engagements of citizens change throughout the project? Did you see that develop, or were they all really enthusiastic from the beginning? Can you tell us a bit about what that was like, that process of engaging with people and how they responded?
Yeah, that's a great question. It also hits a sore spot, I would say. Maybe the background is that from the Soviet era, we have sort of come with this mindset of people not saying that much what they want to see in their neighborhoods, or they are not taking agency in their own surroundings or ownership. But also, so we have, every building has 40 apartments, and our vision first was to have about 10 to 12 people from every building as the activist group. We managed about 4 people per building, which is not great, but it's better than nothing, and I would say it's better than, and in general, maybe renovation processes. And I would say also that we've had a lot of people that maybe don't say what they think about the renovation process, but they are quite active in the neighborhood events. So we as a project group still already recognize neighbors, and they come to say hi. And I think that's maybe the first step of getting people actually involved in the renovation, like heavy stuff.
And like as you say, it's a Casper, yeah, do you want to?
Sorry, I just wanted to add. Sorry, I just wanted to add that maybe you didn't emphasize this enough. I would like to emphasize why this project is extra important for Estonia, and I think maybe in wider terms for Eastern Europe as well. But I do not know of other Soviet-era apartment buildings that have, during retrofit, installed new elevators in buildings that previously did not have elevators. So it's been talked about, the solutions have been on paper previously a couple of times, but this is the first time we will actually see in action how the construction will take place and how the setup is going to be. So hopefully in a year, maybe a bit further away, please come check this out, how this works, and we will be able to share the experiences of
yeah,
everything.
You already know the street name of this location, so.
And did the thing with the elevators, was that driven from the community engagement? Was anyone considering making that change beforehand, or was that something that came up from the community?
I think a little bit of a nudge would come from the municipality as well, but locals really want elevators because old people find it hard to climb on the 5th floor, and also young families would need their strollers to take the elevator, right? So these focus groups actually did this. The focus groups developed 2 different versions of it for every building. And then these 2 different, sort of one ambitious and other one less ambitious versions got to a vote in the housing union. Mm-hmm. And 2 of the buildings actually chose like a little bit more expensive, a little bit more harder version, which is the one with the elevators. Yeah. Also, I want to add that the elevators is quite tricky part because we talked about ownership, and the buildings, the land under the buildings belongs to the buildings, but the land is only the size of the building. Right, so at some parts, even the insulation layer is on a different, like on municipal land, which is complicated. So it was quite hard to sort of envision building new mass volumes on the sides of the building to sort of finance the renovation maybe. So the elevators actually at one of the buildings go 1 meter to the other plot or the other land, which is quite complicated problem. So this ownership issue is quite related to the renovation process in general.
Yes, and we might have these aspirations around insulation and everything else, and you don't think about those little tricks that trip you up as you go through, yeah. I'm just interested about, you talked about the soft space or the container?
Soft box.
Soft box, yeah. And how did that come about? Again, was that community driven, and how does it feature in the community now? Now it's there. Has it changed anything about how people use spaces around the buildings?
Yeah, it came. I mean, I'll be honest. It came from the project manager's side, but it has highlighted quite well the need for social spaces in apartment buildings. The apartment buildings from the 60s don't have any of it. There's only the staircase and then apartments, so no spaces to get together and sort of envision these renovation plans, or even to get to know each other, to be friends enough to renovate, to agree on renovation maybe. And this soft box has a little bit sort of generated this friendship between locals.
I think that just before we open it back up a little bit, those sort of things are part of like creating that sense of belonging in the community. And were there any specific things you did as part of these projects to try and strengthen and foster that sense of belonging, that sense of pride in the community as part of what you were doing? Or was that already there within the community?
I think it's a quite tricky question, this the question of belonging and community. I don't think it exists that much, and we did choose a project or 4 buildings that already had a little bit of that there.
So you're sort of nurturing and supporting what's there already, yeah.
Yeah, because they were already ready to take this decision of renovating, and then they were like, that is a big win for us to have 4 buildings all together willing to renovate. That's because you need to have quite a lot of people agreeing on one future goal, which is usually the place where the renovation projects get stuck.
Yeah, you can never get unanimous agreement on things. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So what we did was that we chose a very fruitful ground to do this.
Yeah, and that's often the thing, isn't it? You work with, when you're trying some different approaches, it's working with people who are willing or already, there's a little bit of a way in there that can be helpful, yeah. No, thank you, mate, that's really interesting. I suppose what I'm thinking about hearing the bits you've said is that the bit around collaboration between different actors and different players in this, and I'm just sort of thinking in terms of how can the sort of collaboration among different players, whether that's different tiers of government, whether that's different local actors, how can that help to advance this sort of beautiful, sustainable together, the NEB values within these sort of projects? Does collaboration amongst different groups and different actors have a part to play in there, do you think? And if anyone wants to... Stefan, you look like you might want to...
I think it's absolutely crucial to have, I would say, an inclusive, participatory, but also collaborative approach across all those who are involved. Basically, it's the citizens, the inhabitants, basically in this renovation project, because you have already people there, contrary to basically a new development, or where basically it would be a brownfield reconversion of an industrial site into a housing unit, where you can design it differently, where the city needs to, or the municipality, more broadly speaking, needs to define what it should be for, what purposes, what functions should it serve, and how to reach it. Here you have already, in the renovation project, people who are there. So these are basically the most important players.
Yeah.
These are the people for whom it is and whom it needs to serve. And it depends on how this community or this kind of, I would say, group of people interact with each other. As you said, there could be a little interconnection between some people. Some people know each other well. They have maybe a shared purpose, others don't. But still, it's important to at least get an outcome which is not only acceptable, but actually would be welcomed by most people. It will never be possible to say, for everyone to say that's great, yeah. So, but at least that it serves the purpose of the large majority of people, and even is okay for those who initially didn't agree. I think what often is the most important obstacle is actually the cost. Some people are just struggling, they can't invest, they can't pay anything, or they are already in a situation where they have other worries in life, like very sick, for instance, or very senior, and simply they can't deal with that anymore. So what do you do with people who basically would not, in principle, be open anymore to any changes? Yeah? So either because they're overwhelmed financially or otherwise in life. That's very difficult to do, but it could be addressed, of course, by specific assistance to these people, either financially or actually organizationally, yeah? So that we help you when it requires maybe some moving in or out or some cleaning up after the works and all that, so that people see, okay, I'm taken seriously. And in many cases, and I don't know exactly, I'm extremely impressed by this project. The question is, the most important question is initially the costs. Can we afford it? Yeah? So, and that's why I think for the European Bauhaus, this will have to be a very important consideration, maybe even more than so far, in terms of creating a menu of options. How much does each change, each improvement cost, and how can it be implemented in the most effective manner? I've seen from your project that in some buildings you decided to introduce elevators and others not. Yeah? So that, I think, is exactly that consideration. Where do we need it? Who needs it? Maybe people who need it now might not need it anymore in a few years, and others will need it in a few years, but not now. So that there's maybe some flexibility in moving. If you don't decide to install it everywhere, that basically there's some kind of swapping within the same precinct, that people can move in or out from an apartment which is served by an elevator or not, depending on their life stage, yeah? So where they are in life. So that's one option to reduce costs, of course. Yeah? So to really have a proportionate approach to what exactly is needed for what in terms of energy, aesthetics, which solutions are there. Because I think the European Bauhaus will create even more value in the future if it puts, I would say, the affordability, the costs at the forefront, maybe even as a starting point. And then, of course, quality and sustainability need to be achieved, but having costs in mind, because otherwise it risks, of course, being, to some extent, an elite project. Yeah? So that it's something which is beyond the reach of those who are the most vulnerable in society. And this, I think, is now the political focus. We need to integrate everyone. It's not acceptable that people are in vulnerable situations. The worst performing building stock is the most difficult to deal with. No one can be left behind, and we also need to integrate, of course, people who have particular difficulties, like homeless people or migrants, people in families breaking up, single parents, etc., so that these people can also be served. I think that's where we would like to see a particular focus in the future also.
And I guess thinking about the future there, we heard in the opening talk about the opportunity of the midterm review happening, and do any of you sort of see opportunities there for aligning funding for housing or for affordable housing with NEB values more? Is there things you particularly like to see in sort of future funding that align it more with this sort of approach?
Absolutely, yes, please. Definitely. Of course, like all this, you don't see the picture. I see the. We see the soft academy picture. Like, although maybe these neighborhoods, they were at some level planned very thoroughly with public spaces, private spaces, and everything. Somehow, at some point, somebody decided, no, the buildings, they are enough. Just people need a roof over their heads, and the quality of the space was left on the backside of the goals. So, and I don't think that, for example, in Estonia, in past 25 years, the developers always have had the whole experience of living in their mind, just maybe more towards profit. So, really keeping this neighborhood level and quality open space, public spaces in mind, this is extremely important when moving forward and keeping our cities vibrant and livable.
Yeah.
I would actually like to sort of second that sometimes I feel that the quality public space can do a lot more for the sort of renovation and for the neighborhood than the actual renovation of the buildings. Or sometimes the public space is the initiator. Except, like, one of the great examples was the softbox, that it's not a quality public space example, but it's an example of providing spaces where people can come together, and it can be outdoors, and especially through maybe doing things together rather than just sort of passing by or sitting together, you get to know people a lot more.
Yeah, it creates a focal point, it creates a different use of the space, it promotes connections, yeah, exactly. And I guess that's the interesting bit, it's about how all these different components come together. Again, it's like we talked about earlier, it's that these things don't exist in isolation. It's not about just this building, it's not about just that public space, it's not about just these people or just this elevator. It's actually about how those things work together as a set, yeah.
A small comment on the price question as well. This renovation project, the Soft Academy, it's a little bit more pricey than maybe the very simple insulation basic renovation, but it is still in the price range of the residents. So the residents decided what is their limit for renovating, and we managed to be below the limit. Okay, so it's a little bit more expensive, but it's still sort of doable for them.
Yeah, it's still affordable for them in that sense, yeah, okay. Great, thank you. We've not got a huge amount more time left. Is there anything in terms of a particular takeaway you've had from the work you've done around European Bauhaus so far, in terms of what's been the bit that you've seen that this is the thing that really makes a difference and we want to make sure we keep going forward? So, like, we talk about what else can we do differently, but what are the sort of essential bits? You touched on it a bit at the beginning, Stefan, but just this other things you say, this for housing projects has to be in there. This is really core in terms of what the new European Bauhaus brings to this.
I think we are talking about this Soft Academy project, but I kind of see this pattern, or I think your previous question was also on cooperation on different levels. And I think local governments themselves kind of at some point need this type of success stories, not for the citizens, not for the housing, but for the, let's say, city government itself, that the municipality actually is able to help and provide the citizens and on the housing. And in Eastern Europe, there was a huge wave of privatization in the 90s. And from then on, housing policy in local municipalities is maybe on the backside or not emphasized too much. So kind of building this capacity up is really important for local governments. I come from Tartu, where we had a similar type of project around 10 to 7 years ago. And since then, the city government has been providing a one-stop shop service for renovation, which then enables to bring in neighborhood values as well. And as I see from now, Tallinn, building on this good experience, is also building up its capacity to provide these renovation one-stop service in Tallinn. So hopefully there will be more of these type of success stories for local governments to experience the success of really promoting housing or influencing housing.
Yeah, okay, great.
I would highlight the sort of need to have an architect involved, like a specialist architect involved in the renovation process, as often the renovation projects are done by sort of these technical architects. And I would highlight that a true professional would sort of know how to find these clever and affordable solutions for buildings.
Yeah, it's about the practical, how do you not get the idea per se, but how do you work it together in something that works in practice and is implementable and meets the needs and the wants of the community, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly, because if there's a technical architect involved, it usually ends up being so that the client would just say what they want and the technical architect would just draw it, no questions asked. And like here, if you actually have an architect that is sort of the project lead as well and is a good consultant for the locals, they would know how to consult in finding clever and affordable solutions and working together with the locals.
Yeah, and I guess that's it. It's being able to bring in together those different aspects and be a bit creative about how you do that. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you to the three of you for that discussion there. That, I think, kicks us off really well in terms of one of the really core challenges that we face across Europe. I think a lot of you will recognize the things that are being talked about. Some of you might even recognize the types of buildings and so on they're dealing with, but I think we can all kind of see some links with projects that we've seen elsewhere. And I think that bit around the sort of participative approach, and I think, Casper, your point about the challenges around the NEB values as well, they're not criteria, so you can't mandate them, but how do you lead with them? And examples like this help to illustrate this is how you can embody them without having to mandate them being in there in a very sort of rigid way. So, but yeah, thank you for that, that opening discussion. We're going to move relatively promptly to the next panel, but Casper, Stefan, and Mai, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you. You can leave the mic. Yeah, leave ones head off that way. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, moving swiftly on to our next panel. One of the things about that sort of panel is it's very concrete and very focused in on small communities very often. And the next panel we're going to look at with another set of colleagues about the impact of the new European Bauhaus, particularly in just transition territories. So thinking about the values of the Bauhaus in that context, thinking about insights into how these initiatives function in practice in those sorts of territories and with those sort of funding regimes, and thinking again about civic engagement. How do we bring that in? How do we use that to support just and inclusive transitions, as well as balancing that with some of the sort of technical challenges of putting these things into practice? So I'd like to welcome the panelists from for the second panel up to the stage. I think you all know who you are, so please come up and join me. Hi. Yeah, down, further down. It's, sorry. So, welcome to you all. A much bigger, longer panel than the last one, bringing in even more sort of project and different levels of experience. So, in terms of who we have with us, we have Pavel Oleknovich, who is the Policy Officer for Just Transitions at the Smart and Sustainable Growth Unit at DG Regio, at the European Commission. We have Peter Vogt, who's the Deputy Head of Unit for the Structural Transformation in the State Chancellery and Ministry of Culture in Saxony-Anhalt in Germany. And also from Germany we have Joanna Woll, who's kind of the Project Manager for the NEB project Lembau Kultur. We have Anja Serch, who's the director at the Savia Regional Development Agency. We have Natasha Goshely, the project manager for the Consortium of Educational Institutions in Zavalia and in the works in the municipality of Zagorje ob Savi in Slovenia. And also, finally, Barbara Zafir, who's the deputy director of the Department of Regional Development and Transformation in the Silesian Wildship in Poland. Challenging all my different linguistic pronunciations through different countries. So welcome everybody. It's really great to have such a varied panel and a range of different perspectives on it. Paul, can I come to you first to sort of talk about some of the key principles in Just Transition Fund, and particularly the partnership principle, which is a key aspect of it. And could you say a bit for you about how you see that aligning with the NEB values in terms of, particularly in terms of stakeholder engagement and sort of the togetherness aspect of it?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you for this question, because I think in a just transition, the most important is that the people feel they are not left behind. And partnership provides opportunity for them to participate in this exercise. And in fact, European Commission stressed very, very clearly that the reinforced partnership principle, especially involving the local stakeholders, youth organizations, NGOs, trade unions, which are very difficult to reach, is the key success factor for just transition. And we realize also that the most successful just transition process is where the stakeholders are really engaged on the ground. For example, and we feel that also they are engaged, they feel the ownership of the process, they understand, and they can also create the project pipeline of the project, because apart from the challenges that they know and they face, they can also reinvent the future, reinvent by the concrete projects, and then also propose, and I'm really curious to hear from different regions how you did it, because I think it's a very interesting story. And the partnership, and the participation, it's investment, it's not a cost. So it's really, it's one key successful factor apart from administrative capacity in this exercise. So inclusiveness, I would translate as the partnership from the Bauhaus.
That's interesting about how you view the time and the effort and the money cost that goes into that. And if you view it as an investment in terms of what you get out, there's a slightly different, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Thinking about your interest in hearing how other people approach it. Anya, could I jump to you next to talk? Just to think about integrating the NEB values into this, into just transition programs, and how do you see the New European Bauhaus contributing to the socio-economic transition of these regions? What does that sort of mean? How does that work for you in practice when you're thinking about that?
Hi. I will be a bit esoteric at the beginning, because I think what Paul was talking about, he said partnership, collaboration, and I just wanted to open up that for us, in a way, New European Bauhaus presents an opportunity of magic in a bit, like a tiny bit of magic, which I think it's needed in every successful transition. So in order for a transition to succeed, I think we all need a bit of luck, magic, and which comes from cooperation. And so when Director General was talking about wicked challenges, I think this is what we are all faced with, not just the transition regions. But to give you a bit of a background on where we come from and why we decided that the New European Bauhaus could be a valuable development framework for regional thinking, for a new regional development thinking, is that you need to understand a bit about the identity of Zasauye just transition region, just transition territory, I apologize, just transition territory. So it is based on 270 years of brown mining, of brown coal mining, and it has the first miners' strike, it has the first 8th March celebration in former Yugoslavia, it has the still today the biggest organized environmental protests. It has avant-garde music movements, so it is a very strong identity rooted in this communality. So this is one part of Zasauye. The other part of Zasauye is that it is a region that is in economic transformation. So we were left without the biggest industry, which meant the loss of 5,000 employment. And that had economic consequences. So we are still the least developed region in Slovenia out of 12. We have the highest outwards migration from the region, work migration. And when we were starting to think of how we can use the Just Transition Fund in a way that will be sustainable in the long term, we found the European Bauhaus framework as a way to think about the development. So I'm very happy today that we're actually sitting with Saxony-Anhalt, which was our inspiration when we were thinking about that, because what we did is we coupled our goals from the Just Transition Plan with the NEP development principles. So in the Just Transition, they would say we need sustainable, flexible, and diversified economic development. And we wanted a bit of magic to it, so we said we need circular economy. We need the development of circular economy models in the region. The Just Transition Plan says we need highly motivated and skilled inhabitants. We say we need to regain a sense of belonging. So this is how we'll get the motivation. And then we said we need to improve social infrastructure and transport. And we said we need to prioritize our places for the people that need it the most. So it's just the way of thinking differently about the regional development. And so what we did was, so far, we try to promote the values and the concepts in our existing regional development structures. So in our committees, in our council of mayors, in our all of like regional development structures that you know. So we did that. We have the first project which integrated NEP principles in the cohesion policy in the Just Transition Fund, which Natasha will explain further. And we are collaborating with experts that can help us develop new models, new projects, and give us opportunity to enter into horizons and live projects with the NEP principles. And what we plan to do is to design a process of regional framework thinking, which we hope will get the support of the Ministry of Cohesion and Regional Development to do it with the help of NEP principles. Because by the end of 2025, 2026, we have to build a vision for 2050. And this is where I think NEP magic can help us envision a better future. I'm just finishing up, and the second one is we want to develop a project identification framework which will identify not just how we'll do the projects, but also what are the values that these projects can promote. So just to build new tools in which we can think about development. And the third, I think, is, like for all of us here, is to identify new development opportunities, especially if we look back to the development data, is how to keep the young people in the region, how to create new employments, how to create good conditions for housing, how to diversify the economy with the help of this new thinking principles.
And it's really about that different language, different thinking, different way of engaging with the whole topic in terms of bringing in different aspects to it, I suppose, isn't it? I think before we dive into the projects, I want to come across to you, Peter, because obviously you're doing a similar role to Anya in some respects, and she obviously cited your region as an inspiration. But do you still see that there's sort of challenges in trying to integrate these values into Just Transition funding, or have there been challenges that you've solved, for example? How do you sort of see those difficulties in the practical sense?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for being here again. Nice to see the community grow and being so big. But maybe to just give you an idea where we are. So Saxony-Anhalt is a state in middle of Germany. And actually we are home of the historic Bauhaus. So we are Bauhaus Dessau. We are having the 100-year anniversary this year and next year. And we are at the same time Just Transition region. So the south of Saxony-Anhalt is a Just Transition region, and as we are the managing authority that is dealing with the JTF, we put forward a dedicated call for the new European Bauhaus under the Just Transition Fund. And I mean, as with all programs, you have to integrate the NEP into the program itself. You have to find indicators where we use, for instance, attractiveness of the region, as Anya said as well. You know, you have to attract employees, you have to attract young people, or hold them at least. So that's what we try to do, and also express with the indicators. Then we use, for instance, as part of the
inclusive criteria, the number of people engaged, just to have a solid measure, so to say. So that's the basic work you have to do when you want to have an own call, an own program. But then it gets a little bit tricky, and you ask for the challenges. If you want to set up an own funding scheme for such projects, you want to have an attractive product. So I'm coming from product management, and you have to build demand for your call, for your projects, and I'm lucky we have one here. Joanna will talk about her project later. So you have to see that, for instance, if you want to have associations, creative people engaged and apply for these calls, for instance, you have to have a high funding rate, for instance. And there you find sometimes difficulties, for instance, for state aid, where we have to use a lot of exemptions to ensure a high funding rate. And also we have a lot of communities that are engaged in the European Bauhaus that are financially weak, and you have to find ways that they can participate as well. So we had to deal with our Ministry of Finance about a 100% funding quote. So coming back to that point and challenge, you have to build an attractive program where you have a lot of applications or enough applications in the end, for instance. And then
making it accessible to them as well, so it's they can feel like they can access it. They have the. Is there also a challenge around the technical competencies to engage with the program like that as well in some cases?
Right, and maybe another point, which is specific, I think, to the European Bauhaus, is the stepwise approach. So normally, if you have a funding scheme, you get a funding and a grant, but normally in these new European Bauhaus projects, it's not clear at the beginning where they are maybe heading, and they are developing on the way, and the funding scheme must respect for that. So you need a kind of stepwise funding scheme or granting scheme as well, and this is not always easy to do with the funding authorities, so to say. So these are some of the, might sound technical, but some of the things you have to overcome to build these attractive projects. And then especially under the JTF, we have the problem or the challenge of the short time frame where projects have to be executed. Joanna can say something about this as well. So you need to have like an institution that also supports the projects and ensures that they are finished in time.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any examples of where you've managed, by how you've done that, to solve some of those challenges? Like, how have you made some of those things more accessible? How have you actually supported people to engage with your programs, or have you been successful even in doing that? Can you say a little bit about sort of have you got examples of that you could share?
As I said, we had to do a lot of internal work, so to kind of go away from the standard funding scheme, and you have to deal with your. I think Rose told us yesterday to get engagement with the senior management, so with the finance minister. He's always the guy you have to have on board. But then on the other hand, you need consultation so that project beneficiaries are well consulted and have the knowledge to actually deal with these technicalities that we face here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Peter. So I suppose it makes sense to move to you first, Joanna, in terms of you've had experience trying to translate these things into concrete projects. And could you say a little bit about, first of all, just the project you've worked on and the experience of that, and then we can sort of dig into some of how that links in with what we're talking about.
Yes. Perfect. We already see some pictures here that are running through. So this is our Schwemme. It's a 300-year-old heritage building in the heart of the city Halle, which is pretty much in the middle of Germany. And it basically consists out of clay, wood, and stone, so natural building materials. And there are two important factors that you need to know. We are an association, and up until the funding through a NEP or the JTF fund, we were running on a volunteer basis only. So this now enables us actually to employ some people. One of them is me. And the second part is that we own the building. So our association has been active there for 10 years. You see a few pictures of what we do. And we've been restoring the old brewery in a very cost-effective way, mainly by doing it ourselves. So I truly believe, from what I gathered here yesterday and today, that we are a quite good role model for citizen engagement. And honestly, when we were reading the NEP Compass, we were like, okay, this has been written for us. I just want to highlight really quickly our goal, maybe to say that, in the project is the establishment of a regional clay construction training site as a third place in Halle with 2.4 million euro funding that we have received. And we identified 3 levels of citizen engagement that we are using. So first of all, we do hands-on workshops where everybody and anybody can learn and experience clay building on the site. We also offer expert lectures to teach about the building techniques with natural materials. Then the second one is public forums and workshops within our association, but also beyond. We currently have around about 40 members who co-design the ideas and the path to where we want to go, and we assure each other again and again that we are still on that path. But we also create lots of cultural events, invite people already to come see the construction site in action. And then the third one, which is probably the most important one, is volunteering and practical work on the construction site. So we started with monthly meetings that now turned to weekly meetings. We call them after-work sessions. So every Tuesday at 5 p.m. you will find people there. Sometimes it may be 10, sometimes it may be only 2, sometimes 20. But we are very consistent in that, and that is part of the magic, I believe. So it's not only about building the building itself, but about building community along the way.
Yeah, and I think there's that sort of civic engagement, participation thing runs through it, and I suppose how your association has grown up is fair to say is rooted in that, is it, in terms of that participative approach? Or has the Bauhaus principles brought more to it? Has that changed how you've approached it?
Well, I believe we became more aware of why we are doing what we are doing, and now have better terms to describe it. So yeah. It's
a bit similar to the sort of language and terms that Anja was referring to. Yeah, okay, yeah. Have you had any particular success stories, particularly with like the engagement side of things? Have you had any particular things you say this was really a turning point or really made a difference to something in the project?
Well, I think referring to Rose again from the talk yesterday, the real magic really comes when you're implementing the values and principles, and through our regular workshops, in a sense, we really identified those values, and to reconsider and rethink and always check yourselves, are you still doing what you really believe in. That's quite important. And in our project, of course, we are sustainable. We use natural building materials, but what it really comes down to is the together part, and to do something together that is much bigger than whatever one person can do on their own. I think that's really what brings us together with this sort of building that, to me, the building part is not what drives me there, but it's about creating space for community and really bringing people together that otherwise would not have met. Okay, and also bridging with that the societal gaps, the divides that we are seeing, and offering really a third place where people rather than talking about one another, talk to each other. And
Yeah, yeah. And I guess there's an echo from what we heard in the previous panel around this, a new space created and it brings people together and so on. So that's really great to hear. Natasha, Barbara, can I come to you? Because I think you have some similar but different experiences in terms of the projects you've worked on. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your work on those projects, and particularly, again, sort of collaboration and partnerships, and how that's been really core to what you've done, how you've brought those principles into your work?
Thank you. If I'm honest, we didn't start with the NEP initiatives, yes? But we start with some thoughts that collaboration and partnerships are really important for every project. And with thoughts how school can participate in the transition of our region. What are our roles, yes? So we designed the project named Preplet Zasauja Learning Hub that is unique in many ways. For the first time in our future, and Anya will say yes to that, she tell you what kind of a region we are. We managed to put in partnerships all the primary and secondary school in our region. We made the consortium, and there's also the kindergarten, so there are 16 partners with the same goals, yes? But we don't take the identity of each schools. So they are free to choose their path, how to get to those goals. Our project is structured on 3 main pillars, yes? The first pillar consists an activity carried out by the school themselves, focus on the developing key competence and introducing more modern technique approaches, especially through the interdisciplinarity, research-based learning, and taking authentic real-world problem. The second pillar is to build a virtual platform, the digital community, that will connect 750 teachers in our regions to cooperate, to develop new skills for the teachers, to share the knowledge. And the third pillar is actually the Learning Hub, a physical space designed for innovation teaching and equipped with the latest technology. And for that purpose, we will renovate an old building. Yes, you can see it on the picture. So it's unique that our project is unique because we develop the soft skills and the infrastructures. So we already know what program we will have in the new infrastructures in our Learning Hub. But there were scares, we were scared of some things, yes. How to maintain especially the sustainability. And in that point that we were talking about that point of view, yes, we made the NEP initiative, yes. It was on a coffee meeting, I will be honest, and it was proposed, what if we add NEP to your project? And I said, what's NEP? I didn't have any clue of that. And the lady says, something that you can relate it already with your project. Since I came from the educational field, yes, I said, well, it's always good to learn something new. Let's add NEP. And the NEP brings us, yes, the collaboration with municipality, with NGOs, with industry, and they can help us to sustainability in our Learning Hub. So this is the really what is matter in the NEP Institute. It's something that it was for us a common sense. So nothing new, but we are now more aware of these values.
Yeah, and you can connect with others who share those values more and broaden it. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think Barbara, have you got things to add on a similar vein, I think, in this?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for the invitation to this panel and to this meeting. So I would like to say, first of all, that when Silesia received a huge amount of money, it means 2 billion euro from the Just Transition Fund, it was very challenging. Challenging first how to communicate to the residents that this transformation is needed. Because we were aware of that mining, it's not only the industry, this is also the identity of our region, connected to the economy, to the society, because people from all over Poland, all over the country came to settle up among mines and work there, and all the infrastructure like shops, like hospitals, like schools, like stadiums were built among the mines. So. And especially in places where the mining is still operating, the mine is still operating, so this is a very sensitive theme, subject, and sometimes even the word transformation is really controversial. Personally, I think that it's a bit technical or mechanical, so it's maybe needed more human aspects to this word. So that's why one of our initiative we have undertaken was to via our information and promotional activities of the regional program Silesian Funds, European Funds for Silesia. To organize this Citizens Cafe, so the participatory meetings with residents in the, let's say, very relaxed over coffee atmosphere, because we understood that only the direct approach is important here. So we can't do any general information on internet or outdoor. It would not work. We decided not to invite them to come to our offices, but we went to their places, to their towns, their communities, and we held these meetings in some revitalized places, but they were chosen not only because of their beauty, let's say now, but also because there was the places where residents gathered. And it was such places like municipal libraries or business incubators and social activist centers and environmental educational centers, so this kind of places. And we also, because we heard a lot of stories about the places before, how was it, so we knew that the emotions related to the people, to the residents, and to the places are also very crucial for this difficult topics. And it requires really very sensitivity and tact and respect towards of them. And what was also important to reach out to each group, so this intergenerational meetings. So it was already said with other speakers that young people, of course, so the students, the representative of city youth councils, or the representative from local businesses, from NGOs, and also senior clubs were present. And they were together exchanging about what is this transformation, let's say this difficult subject. And we also we could see that they were keen on these topics, and they wanted to add something from their side. They had let's say like a hunger of sense of among agency among local communities. So it was very important, because making participants aware that they have they can be creators of something. Some grassroots initiatives was very important to build this civil society. So this enthusiast energy was also very present. You can see on the pictures as well. And I would like also to underline the role of the moderator, because it was a person from the University of Economics from Katowice. And his role was very neutral, let's say. He was just, at the beginning, he gave some general economic information, but from local, regional, national, and global level. And he was a facilitator. He was, directing the discussion, but he was not for and against, just in the middle of the discussion. And finally, the reception of the cafe really surprised us, because at the beginning we planned 5 and we finished with 13. We met, in fact, in 13 localization, yes, and we had 500 participants. We travel about 700 kilometers across the region, and really drank hectoliters of cafe and ate 26 kilograms of cookies. So it's, and what is also important, that the local media was supporting this action. So we made 13 reports from each cafe, and also made let's say, the show, TV show. The name was Transformation from the Kitchen, because the regional famous cook were inviting a local activist, and over the dish special from the town, from the city, from the place, they were talking about the changes and the possible direction. So I think that really I can say that I have already talked about this cafe in Bulgaria. I talked to Inform meeting in Tallinn. Now I'm here, so I think that that proves that the participation is the right and important direction when it comes to New European Bauhaus.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I think it's interesting, those different roles that these different organizations bring in. I kind of wanted to come back to you, Natasha, because you said you connected with different agencies or different people. How's that enriched the process for you? What have you had brought in from those conversations, that from other partners, or different skills, different views? How's it changed your? I wonder, with Anya's chuckling, I wonder what's coming now.
Yes. Anya is waiting. What will I say? Yes, because she knows me. What's the best connection people can have? Sit and talk and feel comfortable, yes? So there were many talks during coffee breaks, I don't know, during afternoon, visiting some places and so on. So talk and listen to each other, yes? Share the idea and be open to other suggestions, yes? So this is easy to say, but it's hard to do, yes? There's a lot of effort to put it. Because when I first mentioned the NEP values to the other principles in our regions, yes, they say, huh? No, we have enough work. And I said, no, it's not more work. It's just different thinking, yes? It's the changes in our head, yes? So, when you put the values and when you speak about the goals, and you are open-minded and open heart, that you truly believe that everyone can do at least a small thing for the region, not just for themselves, then start the magic, as Anya said.
Yes, thank you. And it's like the whole thing about this little bits of magic, these little moments where you see these things come together is really nice. Barbara, yeah, did you want to add something? If anyone else wants to come in on any of this, please do so as well.
Okay. Just one word, because I said we start with 5 and finish with 13. How it came? It was on demand of the neighborhoods of the cities where we went to, because some people came and they saw how we are doing these meetings and this citizens cafe. So it was after the on-demand based cafe, let's say. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, yeah, did you want to?
If I may interact, because I think the magic is in the air. And I wanted to tell you also the story of the small region in the middle of nowhere, who also was based on the lignite, wanted to reinvent themselves. They knew the future is coming sooner than later. And they were scared. And there was, before Just Transition Fund was set up, they came to Brussels and they said, sit together. NGOs, trade unions, power plant and coal miners, local authorities, around the same table, they said, help us. At the time there was no money on the table, but they start to talk to each other. And then we talk on the ground. We, for example, was there for presentation, but I left my PPT, my PowerPoint. We put the chairs in the round table with all the people. So we talk how to reinvent themselves, and then it was before just the transition was set up. So, and it worked. It really worked because the people trust each other, they talk to each other. It was not easy. Let's imagine trade unionists in the front of the employee, and they're setting up the common project. You know, how to reskill the former coal miners, how to engage the inactive wives of coal miners on the labor market. And it was magical, and then it really worked. And for example, for Silesia, it works not only, let's say, in the air, it's also on the tables. We see 75%, 2 billion euros engaged in the project. That's really something. Now we need payments. Please provide us payments, because we are desperately looking for and we would like to pay all this with this nice bill. So the magic, but then hard facts.
Yeah, and I think that bit around your point is like, it sounds easy to say, but it's hard to sometimes do properly. Yeah, Anya, did you want to?
Because we also, when we are talking about our region, which is also the smallest region in Slovenia, so it's just to give you an approximation, it's 57,000 people. In the map, which I had on previously, you probably couldn't see where Zasavje is because it looks like a mistake on the map. It's just like a small dot. But for us, it's going to be really important what Paul was just mentioning and what we were hearing also from Natasha is this capacity building on not just how to think magic and imagine a better future, but also how to build the capacities to bring it on the ground. And so we are very happy that we are now in the GRC Territories in Action program with 6 other regions, because this exchange, when you are stepping into the unknown, it's so important that you have companions that are walking with you and that you can try and see what others have done and learn from it as well. So this initiative, we really, really hope that it will bring us new knowledge, but not just for us. We are a small part in a bigger framework of regional development. So if you have a region like us, which is lagging behind in development, it should be in the interest of the country as a whole, like for that region to catch up, which is the case for many just transition territories all over Europe. So this shared commitment or shared understanding that we cannot leave like whole territories behind because they underwent a transition is so important, and that's where the capacity to think differently in how we plan regional development is important. And I just wanted to, a case in point, we said magic happens in small moments when people sit at the same table. So we started this conversation on how to come to this conference. Like there were 3 people sitting at the table, 3 ladies sitting in the audience today. And we were thinking, and we had a friend, a supporter from afar. And so we were thinking, like, how can we bring this to a systemic level? And so we invited people to join us on this journey. So out of 3, a delegation of coffee of 3, a delegation of 18 people now sits in this audience, but this requires work. Like connecting the right people, connecting the right systems and dots requires hard work. It doesn't just happen. So I'm grateful at this point also to our national contact point that brought us together so that 18 of us can now share and integrate into a wider system.
Yeah, and as you say, it does require pushing, it does require work,
Yes.
it does require engagement with it, yeah.
And one really crucial thing, I think we need to all be also very grateful for what we have, a privilege is that you have decision makers or your leaders that believe in that give you the trust to try something new. And in our region, we have this trust and support. And this is where I think it's so important that we sit together, is that nobody knows what will happen, but we have to trust each other that we are going to do the best we can.
Yeah.
So.
And does that, I guess to Joanna or Natasha or Barbara, does that sort of trust translate down to when you're working on a project with a local community or local partners? Do you have to help them with their capacity to engage in the right way, or to help them build trust in you as an association or as a municipality?
Definitely. Trust plays a crucial role, and I just took down some notes, and really to trust the process, and also let the creatives create, and the administration administer and take care of that.
Everyone has their roles, don't they?
You know, really especially when we talk about citizen engagement, it should be allowed to fail as well, and not everything has to be super successful, and only then you get the funding. There should be several stages, but I do believe NEP actually implements that very well.
Okay, yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I think the bit for me that I'm sort of thinking about listening to all of this is a bit like with the previous panel. We're at this point where we're at the midterm review of funding and the structuring of these things. And are there particular lessons from all this experience you've all got? You've got rich experience on this stage in terms of structuring and implementing these projects. Are there particular aspects of New European Bauhaus projects in these regions that could or should inform future projects or shape the future funding in a different way? I mean, what were the things you'd like to particularly see going forward? Peter, you're poised to add
I mean, maybe from a technical point of view or as a managing authority, we have to get to easier, simpler, more simple funding schemes. To give you an idea, we worked on our funding scheme since our program was approved end of 22. We needed like 1.5 years to put up our funding scheme. And then it took like 1 year for the project beneficiaries to get granting, and now they have time until end of 27, mid of 28 to execute their projects. So project execution just takes as long as putting up a funding scheme. So, and that must be sped up. I mean, we have toolboxes in the NEP for a lot of things. Maybe there could be some for putting up funding schemes, for instance. And I think we have to allow in these programs for the uniqueness of the NEP project, so that they have a stepwise approach. They don't have a full plan maybe at the beginning, so it's developed step by step. We have to account for participation, because participation also sometimes means that projects are getting more wishes are brought into the projects get more expensive, and you have to moderate this process, And when it comes to construction, maybe have some more experimental approaches that allow for these unique and creative NEP projects. Otherwise, funding is not actually tailored for this kind of unique projects.
Anja? You go, Anja. You go.
One of the things that maybe refers to also what Peter was saying is that we are still thinking of projects in a very efficient matter, while change management is not an efficient thing on itself. So it requires a lot of this buffer, I would say, buffer space, where we need to, we were just talking yesterday, it's not just believing in like soft parts, but also budgeting the soft parts.
Yeah.
And with this, we did a research a while ago. It's also, we need to think about differently what is efficiency in a project. And so is fluctuation in a project's efficiency? So how does fluctuation in a project affect the results? How does the follow-up effects of if we do the same project afterwards as a follow-up, does that contribute to the change we're making? So to build a different metrics of what a successful project is.
Yeah.
So also in terms of relationship, we started with this a bit, but if we want to have new value, if we want to create new value, we need to create new metrics for it in a way. And I think this is the next job
Yeah,
also.
no, that's a really interesting aspect, because I think it's a bit like your point, Peter, with the stepwise approach, like trying to do anything new and innovative or creative, you often don't have the framework for it because you're feeling your way. And a lot, I think we all know a lot of funding frameworks don't necessarily support that. So I think that's really, I think you can see that's really key to facilitate the type of projects you're trying to encourage as well. So Paul.
I think you touch upon a very important aspect as regards integration of new European Bauhaus. First of all, the right design of the calls. For example, right design of the programs. For example, why not, if you thermo-modernize the building, to integrate some feature of the new European Bauhaus and also to relax the rules. For example, renovation of post-mining asset is much more costly, like, for example, this one. And then let's relax rules about cost efficiency and put more emphasis about aesthetics, about design. And then dedicated calls is one thing, but integrating it to the future, it's another thing. So selection criteria, the right selection criteria also for project selection in different calls for housing, for energy efficiency. Then another lessons I would say, the power of symbols. And I'll look at Director Shafi. Let's imagine the former coal mine transformed into the concert hall, into the museum, into the exhibition. And this is a powerful message for the people living there that the future can be reinvented. There is a hope. And this powerful symbols, like you have, for example, in Katowice, tells much more about transition and build some kind of identity. And then the third maybe element that you didn't mention, but in Silesia and Sachsen-Anhalt, you have within one program 3 funds. So Just Transition, European Regional Development, ESF funds. So this combination of funds, it gives you elasticity. So, and Just Transition itself, it's combining the soft and hard investment, so you can, for example, renovate this kind of building, and then also to invest into the reskilling within one project. So this elasticity that gives a unique opportunity, in fact, to build the project and also to give a message to the beneficiaries and the citizens that Just Transition is not just a different patchwork of a project, but it's really the whole story. Behind one project, you can build the whole story of Just Transition.
Thank you, Paul.
Sorry, thank you for mentioning this example of Katowice Cultural Zone, which was built on the former Katowice coal mine. And what is also interesting, that somehow former coal miners are working now at the museum as a gardens or something like that. They are still maintaining, let's say, in the same place the working place. So it's also about the tradition, but the new, they are reskilling, of course, the competences, and this is also, I think, important.
And I just add something. All the projects are more or less looking towards the adults, yes? And if we really mean that SNAP will be long-term, we need to start working with the young children. So schools are very important, yes?
Yep.
You prepare now the transition in the region for adults. We in the school raise already with those values the young people. So hand with hand, yes? So schools are also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things about the work that you're doing. It's trying to bring those values and those principles down into the education system, and so people are exposed to it, thinking about it, working to it as you come through. Because you're entirely right. We could focus on everyone in the older age ranges, and then if you're not bringing that up through the education system and early work time, then yeah, you lose something and you go backwards again. So I think that is really key about considering all the aspects of it and all the different people who are involved with it, of which young people are a key aspect of that future. Yeah, I think that's probably a good point to leave that on. I would like to thank all of our panelists for being part of the discussion today. It's been really, really great having you here. Thank you. So thank you for joining us. You can leave your microphones on the chairs or so on. But thank you very much, and yeah, definitely, yeah, thank you. Continue the discussions there. We're going to have just a very short pause of just 3 or 4 minutes before we go to the next panel. But during which is going to give us an opportunity to show a short video about some of the NEB projects and work in a few countries, Ireland, Spain, Latvia. But then afterwards we'll be moving directly onto our third and final panel. But in the meantime, please enjoy the video.
Every time I immerse myself in the world of the new European Bauhaus, I am amazed. Amazed by how much richer, more diverse, and more vibrant it has become. What started as a small project has grown into a vast movement. And it has given rise to so many great ideas and to so much progress on the ground where it really matters.
Mums latviešiem ir tāds teiciens, katrā mājā ir jābūt cilvēkam ar zelta rokām. Es esmu Ivars Pilips, un šobrīd esam Liepājas restaurācijas centra pagalmā. Liepājā ir vairāk kā 400 vēsturiskas ēkas, kas ir saglabājušās laika gaitā. Šī māja ir kā dzīves piemērs tam, ko mēs darām. Vienkāršos cilvēkus, ēku īpašniekus, kaimiņus nākt, piebiedroties, izmēģināt materiālus, lietot materiālus.
Es esmu Kristīna Pauzu. Es veidosim ilgspējīgus ainavas dārzu. Principiem, ka man gribas cilvēkiem parādīt, ka lietas var būt skaisti un vienkārši, un viņas ir visiem pieejams un izdarāms. Es atceros to sajūtu, kad es biju Francijā un Ukrainas karš sākās, un kā man ģimene reaģēja. Un tā ir tā sajūta, kad man liekas, ka latviešiem tā tuvums sajūtam, kas notiek, ir tik zināma, cik tas ir nopietni un cik tas var ļoti skart mūs un cik tas ļoti mūs skar.
Ir laiks, kad es ziedoju savu brīvo laiku zemesardzei, un tad man ir pāris brīvas dienas, kurās es varu darīt lietas, kas man turpina iedvesmot. Tātad jumta akstīņa daļa ar ražotāju emblēmu. Man liekas, tāda skaista zīme par to, ka šai mājā tiek darīt tādi mīlestības darbi. Kopā ar rezidentiem no Portugāles, no Itālijas un no Latvijas nostiprinājām mūri un padarījām tādu, kādam tam ir jābūt. Kur ir jāatrod īstajam akmenim, īstā vieta.
Mani sauc Inte Šoriņa. Es esmu Eiropas kultūras galvaspilsētas Liepāja 2027. Nu, redz, kultūras mantojums jau viena no tādām būtiskākajiem pīlāriem veselīgas sabiedrības arī attīstībā.
Vissvarīgāk ir nepazaudēt savu sapni, ticēt savam sapnim, sargāt savu sapni un šajā mirklī arī sargāt savu valsti.
Ja sākās karš un Latvijai karš, kur es gribu būt, ir Latvijā. Pamainīja lietas un perspektīvas, kur ir tā sakne, kur man ir jābūt un kur ir tā mana vērtība, tā bāze. Un tā ir Latvija.
Remonda es un proyecto de Sevilla para Sevilla, porque Sevilla es la ciudad con más naranjos urbanos del mundo, lo que significa que cuando pensamos en Sevilla, en sus calles, los monumentos históricos más importantes, vamos a imaginarnos seguro un naranjo dentro de la imagen, ¿no?
Remonda es una startup de sostenibilidad creada por 3 socias. Marina Pérez es profesional del marketing y expansión internacional. Mónica Villoslada es biotecnóloga y yo soy geóloga especializada en cambio climático. Lo que pretendemos es realizar una valorización de los residuos urbanos de Sevilla, en concreto de la naranja amarga. La idea es hacer packaging para sustituir el plástico convencional que tanto contamina.
Estamos hablando de unas 6.000 toneladas de naranjas que recogemos y desechamos todos los años en la ciudad de Sevilla.
Ahí en Sevilla puede haber muy bien 60.000 naranjos agrios, en muchas calles, muchas plazas. Normalmente la cogen para venderla para confitura y antiguamente la cogían para la pólvora.
Todo el mundo le encanta la idea de convertir la cáscara de la naranja en un biomaterial. Me gustaría encontrar aplicaciones para esta lámina en diferentes sectores, como por ejemplo la moda, y me gustaría también contar con un espacio mucho más grande para tener una planta de producción en la que podamos fabricar el biomaterial.
El ecosistema del emprendimiento en Sevilla actualmente es un ecosistema que se encuentra en plena efervescencia y que arrastre a un gran porcentaje de la población joven en Sevilla y en Andalucía.
Ich bin Paula Hombach und ich komme aus Deutschland. Und zurzeit mache ich ein Praktikum in Remonda. Und mich ermutigt es und bestärkt es auch immer sehr zu sehen, wenn Frauen sich zusammenschließen.
Remonda es nuestra hija. Nosotros, como si Remonda tuviera de verdad una personalidad propia, que la hemos como educado, cuidado así. Algo que nos crea ilusión, que nos despierta como un interés de hacer eso que aporta algo bueno.
We can never match the creativity, the diversity, and the ingenuity of the Bauhaus community. But we can give you tools and resources to spread the spirit. You, the people, are the strength of the new European Bauhaus. Let's make it the beating heart of a more inclusive, sustainable, and beautiful Europe.
I think the thing for me, seeing things like that, having heard these testimonials of projects on the panels, is that what we see there is the people who directly are benefited and are affected and participate in these projects. It's the people in the communities, it's the people who live in these places that are being redeveloped and make use of these new places. And it's really great to see some tangible examples of that and keep us focused about why we're here and what it really is all about. If you're still out in the coffee zone, refreshing yourself, now is the moment to start moving back in and take your seats again, because we are about to move to the third panel. I will particularly make that plea for any of my panelists from the third panel who have run to get coffee. If you could also please make sure you're on your way back. So this final session is moving on to look particularly about how the NEB works in urban context, in a city context. So how that plays out in very specifically within cities. And the new European Bauhaus principles align well with Objective 5 on being close to the citizens and involving local communities in projects and local development. And once again, we're going to take this multi-level view with a range of different panelists on how this all fits together, but particularly zooming in on projects and how things work on the ground in communities. So I would like to invite my panelists from this final panel up to the stage with me. Please come and join me. Welcome, welcome. Please take a seat. You can find your space. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. And so we move to the bell tolls. It's time to return. We move to this topic of sort of the urban dimension and the I can't ignore the bell. It's boring into my head. I'm just going to wait for the bell to finish and then we will continue. Oh, it's reassuring. I thought I was too old to hear frequencies that high anymore, so that's a reassuring moment. Okay, so we're looking at this sort of urban dimension and city context for the new European Bauhaus in this final session. And I'm joined by a number of different people, again, from different contexts. And just to briefly introduce people, we have Kadri Ustal, who's the head of unit for cities, communities and people at DG Regio at the European Commission. We have Rose Power, who's the program manager for the Town Centre First Heritage Revival Scheme, Thrive, in the Southern Regional Assembly of Ireland. We have Elizabeth Horrod, who's the Director of Services for Wexford County Council, and also the Thrive Project Manager for the Gory House Market Project. We have Linda Montinu, who's an evaluation expert for the West Regional Development Agency in Romania, and Daniela Copacci, who's the Executive Director of the Local Development and Investments Department in the municipality of Resice, who is here representing a couple of the projects that they're running under the Bauhaus. If we could start at the sort of more regional level, talking to, I guess, Linda and Rose, just about how you're approaching this call and how you've sort of organized your call sort of specifically in terms of trying to translate this thing down to your regional context, but coming at it from an urban dimension. Linda, do you want to sort of start us off with just giving us a sense of how you're working with this in this context?
Of course. First of all, I would say thank you for the invitation. My colleague Jonut Strinke and I are happy to be here. Also, a very big thank you to everyone who participated in organizing this amazing event. It is truly inspiring. Now about our call. In the West Regional Program, we allocated 28 million euro for Romania's first dedicated call for new European Bauhaus pilot projects. We consider this call and the projects that will be submitted to be operations of strategic importance to us. The call is non-competitive. There is a predefined allocation for each eligible municipality. The eligible beneficiaries are the 4 county capitals. This basically are the major cities in the western region of Romania. Now, those municipalities can also form partnerships with other local public entities or with NGOs. What we are financing through this call is basically a mix between so-called hard and soft components. The hard components include the construction activities for public open spaces and buildings like derelict sites, blue and green infrastructure, and cultural heritage buildings. The soft components are those activities needed, for example, for the participatory process, public consultations, and other cultural and artistical activities which will be included in the project to activate those spaces. The call is currently open and it will remain open until mid-December this year. I am happy to announce that we recently approved and signed our first contract with a beneficiary, which is here today with us. Well, to conclude this, I would say we see this call as a learning experience. That's why we call them pilot projects, and it is our hope in the future, if everything goes well, that we open more calls for all local urban municipalities, and they can learn from the experiences and the good practices that these first projects are. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And I think it was interesting for me that it's a non-competitive call, and it's really about learning and development for the managing authorities, for the beneficiaries to actually work out, I suppose, a bit how this works and how they engage with it, rather than making it a fight to get hold of your money. It's more of an experience to work out how to engage with the principles in the right way. So that's sort of, yeah, it's really interesting. Rose, I guess by contrast, you've obviously taken a different approach, as everybody does, but I think it's with some similarities. But
I don't want to repeat a lot of what I would have said at the community meeting yesterday, but I suppose we took a different approach in that we had time at the beginning of our ERDF regional programme to liaise with our colleagues in the Northern and Western Regional Assembly, and we always knew we were going to assign 120 million in Ireland for urban regeneration. But it gave us the opportunity at the outset to look at how we could mainstream New European Bauhaus directly into these calls, and gave us an opportunity to do that. And we went slightly different to Linda in that we went straight for competitive calls. And we did that for a number of reasons. First of all, we separated out our first call, and that first call was an opportunity for our local authorities to seek funding to put together an integrated urban strategy, to do all of the citizen engagement at the initial stages, to discover the needs of the community, the street, the urban area, the town, whatever it was that they were focusing on, and to look at the needs, the disadvantages that were there, to bring on board all of the community, and for us to have an opportunity during that period to build their capacity in relation to the new European Bauhaus. But it very much was a competitive call, and they all would have produced an integrated urban strategy at the end of that call, and within that they would have identified a priority list of regeneration projects, and then they could choose one of those to put forward for the actual capital funding call. The rationale, I suppose, for us keeping it competitive was we knew at the outset, the very minute we started our engagement with our beneficiaries, who were going to be local authorities, we knew straight away that the demand was going to outstrip the amount of money we had available to fund. So we wanted to therefore score these projects in line with new European Bauhaus values and criteria, and we wanted the best projects to be the ones that were funded. And in the end, it turned out that we had 3 calls. They're all now closed. We funded 26 integrated urban strategies across Ireland and funded 19 capital projects. And the whole 120 million has been awarded at this point in time with no funds left. So if anyone is out there and would like to give us further funds or relax the thematic concentrations, we'd be very happy, because we have a list of projects that we could continue to fund under Thrive.
Yeah, and it's so often the case that that's the situation, that there's always more to do, more people want to work. I think with both of your examples, although in practice you've got a competitive versus a non-competitive call, both of you are treating it as a way of developing the ideas and developing the working. So although it's competitive, you were still using that as a way of understanding the engagement opportunities, understanding the capacities to build the capacities of the municipalities. So there's still that development aspect to it in both instances. So yeah, that's interesting. And Rose, could you expand a bit on that in terms of the sort of the added value of integrating the NEB principles and values into these urban development projects compared to sort of more traditional approaches that don't use those sort of values? What have you seen as the main value there?
There's so many advantages and so many positive aspects of integrating New European Bauhaus. And I'm going to pick only 3 elements of that, because I know my colleague is here who has a wonderful project that she's going to talk about, Gorey Market House, and can talk about some of the areas in relation to citizen engagement and participation. But I suppose I'm going to take it just up a higher level to municipality level or regional level, and what will be gained, because we talked a lot yesterday about getting on board senior management, elected representatives to basically provide support for New European Bauhaus. And I suppose in our experience to date in Ireland, what we have seen is, first of all, as in every European country, there's mass immigration into every country across Europe. And we have used New European Bauhaus as a mechanism to welcome immigrants into the communities in which they're now in, and to actively encourage them to participate in these Thrive projects, so that they feel, first of all, that their opinions, their traditions, and their views are respected, but they're included within the communities that they're now located in, that their views are respected, and that they're getting a welcome and an integration into a community that otherwise might not be available to them. And this gives them a sense of belonging, not just for our Irish residents, but all of our migrants, our marginalised communities, disadvantaged communities, bringing them all on board, treating everyone with respect, given an opportunity to participate for all. So that's one of the big pluses that I think we weren't expecting at the outset for New European Bauhaus, but definitely has actually shown to be quite valuable. The second point I would make is that as a result of integrating New European Bauhaus into the process, what we've seemed to have done is we seem to have created, reinforced local democracy. And we all know democracy is coming under threat across Europe. And this is a way at a local level, because it is purely bottom-up, to allow the people to create a democratic process around what is needed in their community, what is funded under Thrive, and how these buildings may potentially be of benefit to the community going forward. And I suppose finally then, for your senior management, to get them on board, please remember, in our experience, we now have projects that we are putting forward for planning permission in Ireland that have gone through the whole citizen engagement, participation, real participation, and we have projects that have 0 objections to planning permission. The decrease in objections to planning permission for these projects is so substantial that that in itself should be a way of reinforcing how positive these projects are at a senior level in your regions.
Yeah, I mean, any situation where you have no one actively objecting to whatever you're trying to do in a community, that's a really big positive. And I think whether it's about community development or a different type of project, but that is something that can be hard to achieve in terms of getting everybody on board, or at least no one actively resisting it. Before we dive into the sort of projects specifically, which I'm kind of really keen to do because I think there's some really, really valuable things in there, Linda, I just wanted to come back to you a little bit, just to think about, are there particular sort of best practices that you've seen from this learning process you've sort of started with? What are you seeing in terms of things that can serve as a model for urban areas trying to implement it? If you were trying to recruit other municipalities to bid into your scheme, what are the sort of things the practices you'll be trying to promote to them?
Well, I admit it might not be the same for everyone, but from our experience, technical support and capacity building really were key aspects. At the time we included the New European Bauhaus into our program, the NEB Compass was not yet published. When we wrote the funding guidelines for the dedicated call, there still was no NEB toolbox or NEB investment guidelines. And I'll tell you 3 things that really, really helped us. First of all, there was a technical assistance action from the European Commission, from DG Regio, that was called Mainstreaming the NEB in Romanian Regions. And one of the results of these actions was a self-evaluation matrix for beneficiaries, which helps them understand how aligned their project is with the NEB values and principles. By now, we are still evaluating projects based on this matrix. It's really helpful. Secondly, there was another action called for NEB local initiatives, and one of the projects in our region, namely Halaminda, benefited from technical assistance for this. You'll soon hear more about this project. And last but not least, there's the technical support that the West Regional Development Agency is offering to beneficiaries through an iterative process. Now, what we are doing is, firstly, we had workshops with the beneficiaries to help them get a better understanding about the NEB concept. Some of them even identified project ideas during those workshops. We had bilateral meetings and on-site visits at the locations of the future projects. Then we were lucky to have 2 projects which were NEB Prize finalists in the last years, one in 2021, the other one in 2022. And what we did is we hired experts from these projects, architects, city planners, and landscape designers. And those experts offered valuable feedback regarding the technical documentations of the projects which are now being prepared. And also we had on-site visits at the location of these projects already implemented by local NGOs. This would be all. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks. And again, it's interesting the echoes we hear through all the panel discussions in terms of there's sort of key themes that run through a lot of this, and I think that's really helpful to see because it kind of strengthens those who are already working in that way to see that that is a accepted way. And if you haven't picked up some of those things yet, there's new things to try and new things to pick out. I want to dive a bit into the actual projects and initiatives and think about actually how does this translate then when we get down onto the ground again. Elizabeth, let's come to you first, just to sort of tell us a little bit about the project you've been working on, but also I think let's just think about how these NEB values can help keep local culture, local identity in these projects, and in sort of incorporating that into the regeneration process.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and listen to the inspirational speakers. And my project, I don't know if the video is to run, but it's the Gorey Market House. So the Gorey Market House, it's located in the southeast of Ireland. It's about an hour south of Dublin. And the Gorey Market House is one of the oldest market houses in Ireland. It goes back to originally 1609 and was rebuilt then in the early 1700s, the oldest building in Gorey. And really, there was a lot of concern by the local people about this building. It's a really well-loved building. But as the local government, there was a sense of mistrust because when you go to do these older buildings, they require funding and investment. And the Gorey Market House has served through the 1798 rebellion. It was there during the famine. It was a prison, a courthouse, and then it hosted local government. I hope local government and the courthouse don't have too much in common, but this was its purpose. So it has been through quite a lot, and really the people really wanted to make sure that it continued. So our role was to try and look at the traditions of the past and how could we preserve them for the future. It is very easy when you're working in local government and looking at building projects to bring in technical people like engineers and architects. But for us, the new European Bauhaus allowed us to actually invest in other skills. We were able to bring in an independent community development practitioners who had skills in facilitation and community engagement. We were also able to bring in a communications team. And having won the Oscars with the Thrive and having received that funding, it allowed us to do that. So I think it's really important when we look at these projects to put through the new European Bauhaus the value on the process. We have said it's not just about the building. A building, just like a house, is only a home when you look at the people that are in that. it is not just about bricks and mortar. It is very much when you put people at the center of it, it's about working and investing in that process to bring people on board. So we engaged with the local NGOs, the heritage groups, we engaged with people, we designed workshops, we insisted that the architects had to also value citizen engagement and the togetherness and inclusivity, so they came with us. And like other speakers, we didn't bring people into our offices. We went out to the local community. We went to the local shopping centre. We set up a pop-up stand and told people about our project. We launched a marketing campaign, Love Gorey, with the Market House involved. We did a walkability tour, and this was very interesting because initially we were focusing on the building. By bringing people for a walk around the town and looking at the Market House, it was the local people that said, you know, at the back of the Market House, there's this old heritage graveyard. It's a green space within the urban area. Why can't we do a connection to that? And so now the graveyard and its heritage value is also part of the project. So I think it's really important that when we, especially in local government, that we look at this sense of partnership. And this is done, not just is it a regeneration project of reimagining Gorey, which will be a fabulous meeting place for the community. It will bring in arts, it will have an outdoor reopening of the Market House arches to bring it back as a market house with markets. It has also changed the way that we work. It has changed the processes. And so our own multidisciplinary team have learned a lot through this and about the value of New European Bauhaus. And also I think it's important that we are always looking at new ways, and I think it really lends itself to new opportunities. And for the first time for us, when we set up a multidisciplinary team within local government with our architects and our engineers, we also brought the community in to have representation on that multidisciplinary team. And this was a very valuable communications tool for us, but it also demonstrated to the local community and the citizens that we respected them. It gave a voice to their cultural values. It recognized their sense of place and identity. And really, the Gorey Market House will only be successful if it breathes new life and people come and they use it. And also, because Gorey is about an hour south of Dublin, affordability is an issue in the big cities. So we find that Gorey has the people that have lived there all their lives, but it also has brought new people. And we see Gorey Market House is very much a way of bringing people together and being inclusive. So it's about valuing the heritage, but also ensuring that we repurpose these buildings for the future.
Yeah, and it's about space and people, and it's not.
And people.
Yeah, it's not just about the. Again, it's like with the housing panel this morning, where people are saying it's not just about building the houses. Why are we building the houses? We're building them for people and the community that helps build. And I suppose it's exactly the same there, as that you're trying to create a recognition of the history with the building, but keep that alive and move it forward and look to the future with it as well, as in the same way. No, thanks, Elizabeth. I think we'll come back to it in a moment, but Danielle, I wanted to come across to you because, again, you've got the sort of, again, similar but different experiences in terms of working on redevelopment projects. And again, particularly thinking about how does the Bauhaus facilitate that citizen participation, that engagement in the design process. But again, you tell us a little bit about the project you've been working with, or the projects you've been working with.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I take advantage of the fact that here are also managing authorities on the stage. I'm going to speak about two of the projects, the new European Bauhaus projects that we are developing at the moment in Rešica. Rešica is a former industrial city with more than 250 years of steel production history. We have a history of industry. We have more than 400 hectares of brownfields areas within the city and of former industrial buildings which are abandoned. So these two new European Bauhaus projects that we are thriving now, and for one of them we just signed the contract, the financing contract last week with the Regional Development Agency. These two projects wouldn't have happened if this call wouldn't have been there. So both examples that I'm going to talk about in the next minutes are examples of adaptive reuse and of urban transformation. How Rešica has a starting point, these two examples of a former industrial building, which is called Hala Minda, and of a former industrial structure of 30 meters height and 500 meters long, which is, we call it the funicular. It's a metal structure that crosses above the city center, which will be reconverted and brought back to the community. The way that we started this project, we didn't know about the European Bauhaus principles and values, so they just grew organically. And I would just want to give one example related to the funicular. This structure has been abandoned since 2000. It hasn't been used since. There was one private company that bought this structure from the steel production company in Rešica. Why? Because they wanted to use it for economic purposes only, to dismantle it, and to sell it for metal scrap. But they didn't think of the risks of doing this and of the costs of doing this. And then the municipality started it was not a survey, there were several meetings with the local community who in a very high percentage of more than 80% who said you have to buy, we need this back, you have to buy it from the private company.
So it was the community that really drove that,
yeah, the municipality took it over, and that's how this process of reconversion started. So the community had a voice. It's an elder population living in Rešica. Most of the population is elder one, and they thought that maybe the industry would come back and it would be put on place, you know? This was not the case, but afterwards, with the engagement, with the huge engagement of local players, of national players, of NGOs, of community actors, together with this financing instrument that we find through the new European Bauhaus and several other funding instruments, both private, banks and so on, we started this process of reconversion of the funicular. As for the Hala Minda, we had this opportunity to have this assistance from New European Bauhaus in 2023, and through the expertise brought through this assistance, we had the possibility to develop a first architectural input. And this was built on 3 pillars. The first was to remember and reinforce social and historic qualities of the infrastructure. The second one was to reconnect history and future, to reconnect elder population with younger population, to reconnect craftsmanship with education and creatives. And the third pillar of this architectural input was to reimagine the whole location around Hala Minda, its identity, its aesthetics, while preserving also the industrial tradition of the town.
And again, it's interesting the links back to education again, and links back to work and people working and living in the space. And I think both of them are kind of really interesting examples of how people relate to the heritage and the architecture in their city. Like you say, that you assume it's an old thing and everyone wants to tear it down, but actually people, even if for the wrong reasons, as you say, but people have an association with it, and I think that's quite powerful, and I think that if you can work with that rather than pulling against it, I think that makes, can make a big difference. You touched a little bit on this, both of you, but I suppose it's interesting to talk a little bit about some of the difficulties with this. You're dealing with the principles of sort of sustainable and beautiful solutions when you're dealing with heritage buildings. That can be challenging to match the two together, particularly sometimes the sustainability is expensive or regenerating things is expensive. And what challenges do you face, and how do you kind of deal with that when dealing with either heritage buildings or heritage systems? And potentially, how did you have to deal with those difficulties? Elizabeth, do you want to go?
Yeah, so the Gorey Market House, which had been closed for the past 12 years and falling into dereliction, is actually a protected structure. And
so you have all the controls around what you can and can't do.
A protected structure is complex.
Yep.
And so the first thing we recognized was it does require specialist skills. So for example, we brought in an architectural conservation officer to advise us on the building, because it's very important that we preserve the integrity of the building. We had our archaeologists to look at things. We had the heritage officer. So with older buildings, you do need to recognize that you do have to bring in those specialist skills. Then the second thing I would say is, because it was a protected structure as well, and the heritage aspect, you are working in a regulatory environment, and it was touched on yesterday. So you know, you have to get your consents and your permits. But having said that, and Rose mentioned it, because we invested so much in the community engagement, and the community had that sense of ownership. They were informed, and they knew that their ideas were taken board about that we were investing in the future of this building. It was the first time, despite the building being right in the heart of the busy town main street, we had, at the planning stage, no objection. And so I think that's a real, when we look and we measure these projects, that's a real indicator of an outcome where there was not one objection through the planning process. It was unheard of, really, in terms of the project.
And previously you would have expected lots of them.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I can tell you, absolutely. I think then the third element is, unlike a greenfield site, it's only when you start, and we're at that stage now of implementation, it's only when you start looking into a building that the unknowns become and the surprises. But you know, it is doable. Like, for example, for us, first of all, there are things like previously you look to see, is there asbestos, and you have to deal with the safe removal of that. You also, we see what contaminants might be in the paintwork, like lead, and how you deal with that. But also, the unknowns present such wonderful opportunities. And in fact, what we never knew when we started tearing down some of the older works, we discovered the original cobble work on the ground floor. And I can't tell you the excitement that has caused. And so now we will be looking at how do we incorporate the old cobble work, because it's a feature. Also, there was wonderful artifacts in the Gorey Market House that we discovered, like the old grandfather clock. So as well as restoring the building, we are looking at how we tell the story and bringing those artifacts back into the building. But these are all things that are achievable. Now, one of the issues for us in local government was the budget, because these things are as well more costly. But I actually had to ring Rose and say, is this 7 million, is this 100% funding? I mean, you are actually giving us this size of a budget. And really, that's why this building was derelict for so long, because it does cost more. But we had the money then to bring in these experts to deal with the project. And actually, because the project has worked so well in terms of engaging with our elected members who control our budgets, they have actually now seen the value of it, and they also have put in 2 million to the project. So that funding was an opportunity to leverage more funding. And it's about togetherness. It's going to be a beautiful project. It really will transform Gorey for all the people of Gorey and citizens. But it's also how we can deal with these issues together, and we can then work towards the shared vision, which is reimagining Gorey Market House for the future. So yes, it is more complex, but it's so worth the time and the investment, and we have seen that with the Gorey Market House.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant to hear, and I think there is a bit about some problems you can anticipate as well. So, and again, if you can afford to bring in the relevant experts, and you pick up these different things. And I guess, Daniela, that's what you lacked a little, or the company lacked a little bit in terms of the expertise around what will it mean to deal with this structure, and by being able to bring different people in and have a different conversation, you realise that it's that what the plan wasn't what people wanted and wasn't feasible anyway, even if they did want it.
Exactly. So I would emphasize a bit what you mentioned for the skills and expertise needed to reconvert these buildings while preserving the structure, because this is what we focused from since the beginning, to keep the initial the structure, both for the funicular and for Jalaminda. For the funicular, we'll keep it as it is. You will just enforce, the structure. So all this study, all this documentation that was needed were elaborating during the 3 or 4 years with a multidisciplinary team from Romania and from Germany, with architects and the project designers from Timișoara, but also from Berlin. So we had a structural company, for instance, from Germany that provided all the technical project on this part, because imagine that it's a 30 meters height above the ground. So all the works that will be carried out starting next year will involve both security measures that we need further permits from the authorities, but also inconvenience for the local community because it crosses through the city center. As for Jalaminda, we tried to, now the technical project is also almost ready. So it will be, in 1 month it will be ending. So what we discussed with the project, with the designers of the project is to keep as much as they can from what it is, and to explain to them as well what we expect, and to have to align with the new European Bauhaus principles. So we'll keep the structure, the metal structure as it is, and we'll keep also the bricks that are covering most of how they look now. But this is a challenge also in terms of skills, but also in terms of cost and budget.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a common theme through most of these things, that the costs are always a challenge. And I guess that's, I suppose, essentially to all of you, maybe to Rose and Linda particularly, in terms of, do you still see that there are challenges, particularly when trying to implement these things in urban areas and bring the Bauhaus principles in? Are there things you still think, yeah, there's more to do here, this is still always going to be, this is always a problem, this is always difficult, or are there things you'd want to see differently coming forward?
Absolutely. I think there's always room for improvement, and while we're very proud of the Thrive scheme in Ireland, there will be a Thrive Part 2 at some point down the line, and there will be things that we will do slightly different. What I would say is, I think one of the reasons why, and we mentioned it a couple of times, one of the reasons why we went for 100% funding was, first of all, we wanted to make sure that there was a level playing field for all our local authorities. So in the era of inclusion and opportunity for all, we wanted to make sure that each and every local authority, even those that were much smaller local authorities and maybe didn't have additional funding available to them, could participate and thrive. So that's one of the main reasons why we went for 100% funding, so that no local authority, if they had a project up to 7 million, would be at a disadvantage. They could compete with the larger local authorities who probably in any event maybe didn't need our funding. So there was a method in our madness. But I think in addition to that, The reality of it is, Elizabeth there referred to it, because we chose heritage buildings, you know, we caused for ourselves a lot of difficulties. In saying that, what we did was, when we were designing the scheme, we examined the landscape of the kind of funding that was available in Ireland, and this was the gap. There was no real funding for large-scale capital projects in the heritage space. And therefore, we were looking at, well, how can we do this? And one of the requirements that we would have had, and one of the difficulties with these type of projects, is, first of all, as New European Bauhaus, it requires a multidisciplinary team to be involved. It requires multi-level. But in addition to that, because it's heritage, it requires specialists. And we would have required, as part of the application for funding, for them to give us a full outline of how they were going to incorporate that into their projects, because we knew at the outset, without a multidisciplinary team, these projects couldn't be delivered.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's quite key. Yeah, Linda, do you want to add to that?
Yes, the situation in our region is like this. We have some people who are already very receptive to this new context, concept of the new European Bauhaus, and we have some beneficiaries who are performing very well and they are delivering good projects. But we still see some people who could do better. And in terms of what we could do better, there's the participatory process. I heard someone earlier mentioning, well, maybe it's history, maybe it's culture, maybe we are not that used to saying what we have to say. Maybe we still have work to do there, yes. I was happy to see that the subject of the workshop yesterday was the participatory process. It was very interesting for us, and thank you, Rose, for your inspirational presentation. But we'll see. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think, yeah, there's always, as you both said, there's always things you can pick up and more things you can do. I think it's very rare that we can sit still and assume, okay, we've got this right, because if nothing else, the context around us will change. Kadri, you've been listening to all of this go on for this morning and in this panel as well, and I kind of wanted to come to you to, I guess, think about some of the sort of policy conclusions for cities and for how the NEB principles can align with cohesion policy and how it can be used to enhance project quality in cities and urban areas, and what does it bring to it, and how can we get most out of it?
Thank you, and thank you and congratulations for running these programs and these exceptionally inspiring projects. This is really, it's great to hear cohesion policy put into such good use. Cohesion policy and the NEB values, the whole concept of NEB, I think we have a very large overlap. And you can see it here, and you can see it in the other projects that were shown today. And we have about 250 programs in cohesion policy where NEB is integrated in one way or another. There might be a specific call, there might be specific points given. There is a lot of action going on out there, so I'm very much hoping that we'll be flooded with projects like these very, very soon, and we see more and more examples coming out. In very short nutshell, I would say NEB makes cohesion policy better. I mean, we have been advocating since the beginning of times, well, since the beginning of cohesion policy, the importance of partnership in designing the programs and in implementing the programs, as well as when you're delivering specific projects. And here, NEB is exactly I think it's the translation of this, of how partnership should be done with all the toolkits and all the examples, and you can't avoid, by saying, oh yes, I did partnership, tick in the box, as some of us have experienced. But it really shows that when you're applying the NEB values and doing partnership on a high and good and deep and wide level, everybody wins. The money is spent more wisely. The project comes out without protests, and I think that's impressive. Comes out with with outcomes and deliverables which are more valuable because they are owned by the local people, they are rooted in the local history, culture, values, everything that's there. And people will hold on to these projects and they will take care of them even after cohesion policy is done funding it. So it's good on all the levels, and I think it makes cohesion policy just simply better. In cohesion policy, we have also policy objective 5, which is more on local level, bottom up. I would say smaller projects, also local and urban projects, and I think that's the perfect place where to really spread the word and the examples and the toolkits that you refer to, which are important, for people to really understand how to do this. I think in policy objective 5, Europe closer to people, citizens, this is really the best place to get started and do it. But I also see the value in bigger projects, I don't know, when you're doing infrastructure, when you're doing rails, you better consult with the local people. When you're building a big, I don't know, bus station, train station, preserve the old building. It's going to cost more, but it becomes a landmark, maybe brings in tourism, or just locals enjoy it better. The city is more livable. So I think a project or a program can only win if they apply NEB values.
Yeah. No, I think we've heard that again and again throughout today, and I think yesterday as well, that sort of principle that these principles, some people developed them organically and didn't do it on purpose, but then found the NEB and realized that, we're already doing this, but we can apply it differently, we can connect with other people. So I think it is, it feels really core. And I guess thinking about sort of, New European Bauhaus is promoting solutions that are underpinned by these sort of 3 values in terms of aesthetics, sustainability, inclusiveness, and participation, and so on. And whilst trying to respect the heritage or their diversity or the culture that's in there. And I guess as these things develop and change, do you have any views on the ways in which the NEB principles and values can be forward-looking, can respond to the changing dynamics that we see in cities and changing urban challenges we see? How does it look for the future, do you think?
Well, part of cohesion policy is dealing with sustainable urban development, nicknamed SUD, but it's sustainable urban development. And I think here, again, because urban development is what touches people the most, because this is about the places that we live in. Is my city a cold and dark place? Or is it a livable, lovable place that makes me happy to live in? And I think that's the difference that NEB can bring to, a city can be a dark place while it's sustainable, but wouldn't it be so much nicer and probably not so much more expensive if we followed the NEB principles when drawing up integrated urban development plans? That means probably more consultation than a bureaucrat would like of the local people, but giving us a better outcome, giving us a city that people want to come to. And many, many cities are dealing with demographic change, shrinking. NEB can give you a competitive edge. So looking forward, we're working now on a cities agenda to come out by the end of this year. NEB will obviously feature in it, and it's about the role of cities of all sizes, from the smallest town to the biggest metropolis, the role that they play in serving the people, in delivering different policy objectives. And I think NEB in all of those policy areas can help urban development and cities do better in the services that they offer and in the change that they carry out. We say often that cities are the front line for many, many things. They serve people. When there is a flood, it's the city that has to act. When there is a fire, it's the city that needs to jump. Whatever happens, they also actually are the municipal level that very often needs to implement EU law which is translated into national law, and they may or may not have been consulted on that law, but they still need to implement and carry the responsibility. So urban development is hugely important. It touches us very, very closely. So everything, also in the next multi-annual financial perspective, urban development is there as an objective. Integrated urban development is what we want to continue to see. So if we, by then, having learned from all of this NEB experience, integrate that into our long-term planning, I think we'll do even better in the future.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I think that's, that whole bit, it can give you a competitive edge. I think it's, the whole thing is its principles, that it's principles and values, it's not process entirely. And so it can move from one context to another, it can be reapplied and be set in a different context, I guess. So no, that's really great. I guess finally, I just kind of wanted to pick up on whether there's particular little learnings from you. We heard about like the magic in the last thing, those sort of little magic moments. Are there particular things that you've had from sort of implementing these projects which you just think, oh, that just really sparked to me, or even that you've seen from a more strategic level, like those little bits? What are those things that kind of, has anyone got a sort of a little moment where you suddenly felt, oh, this is what it's really about, this makes the difference? Yeah, Elizabeth,
well,
yeah.
I think using the NEB values, really, if you put people at the heart of what you do, the reason that we have processes and frameworks and different structures is to try and make a difference. If you think you are trying to improve people's lives, and for me, I've already had the opportunity through the Gorey Market House to integrate that way of working into statutory plans, where we are also planning for the future of our towns in our county. And so we have used the citizen engagement process. So for the first time, our planners are out now doing walkabilities. Yeah. So already NEB, which started on a project, a heritage project, is now being integrated into how we work in local government. So we're spreading the message, yes, we're spreading the message. So for me, the Gorey Market House has really inspired how to work in a different way.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah. Linda, yeah.
I think for me, is this working? Yes. For me, one little moment was when we realized that the beauty, because at first our biggest problem was how do we evaluate beauty in an objective way. And then we figured out that it's one part of the beauty is the attention and the respect for the local context. And I'm so happy to see this, that the best projects I saw so far, the examples from Ireland, the Schwemme project, the projects with the funicular and Halaminda, they all pay attention to this aspect, and I think place-based solutions do really matter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, yeah. Daniela, yeah.
I would like to mention something that we did with both of these two projects. We listened to the stories of the people who have worked there. And there was a small project carried out by a local NGO who put together stories from the workers. And these stories from the workers work in Halaminda, or have seen the funicular working, carrying out limestone to the steel factory. These stories have been promoted further, because younger generation don't know these stories. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know what happened there, So this was one fact that I think it's very important to start from when building this
and keep those
type
stories
of
alive
project.
And work them in.
Yeah. And based on these stories and on their, they even, and those who told the stories that were still alive to tell these stories, got engaged into this, transformation of the places.
Nice. Rose, do you want to?
I'd just like to add as well, to just remember when you're looking at your new European Bauhaus projects, listen, because we all have something to learn from these citizens. And I think none of the projects that we're doing in Ireland would have been as ambitious, as innovative, and as sustainable had we not listened to our citizens and the engagement that we had with them. So let them be heard, because they have something valuable to add.
Yeah, perfect, yeah. Did you want to add anything, Kadri, or are you?
I think it's been all said very well. So NEB makes cohesion policy better. So let's learn from these experiences and just keep doing it. Yeah, great. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time and your contributions. It's been a really interesting and valuable discussion, I think. Do you want to? You can just pop off that. There's steps out that way if you want to make your way off, and then we'll. Thank you very much. So yes, thank you to you guys. Thank you to all of our panelists today. I think there's been some really, really interesting discussions, some really valuable points made. I really like the last bit around the quote of the, NEB can give you that competitive edge. I think that's actually, I think it is really relevant, and the stories we've heard today from the projects and from the regions have really, really focused that. I'm aware we've been here for quite a long time in a row. I won't take lots of your time up at this stage, but I think just thank you for everyone who's been here yesterday, been here today, and been involved in putting this event on. I think, as I said at the beginning, coming together, sharing experience, sharing stories, sharing hints and tips, and making connections is all part of what the new European Bauhaus is about. At this international level, at regional level, at local level, and we've really heard that today. So I think that's one thing that's important to take away with us. There's going to be lunch available very shortly. I say that and I expect everyone to get up and run, but thank you for sitting whilst I finish. But yeah, there'll be lunch here available, chance to meet with colleagues. There'll then be coffee and other networking opportunities to hear about some of these projects. If you've heard speakers you want to talk to, track them down, have a conversation with them. It's really about getting to know people and making those connections. And then later on, after that, you'll be moving across to the European Parliament for the exciting grand finale of the new European Bauhaus Awards ceremony. I'm sure a lot of you are really looking forward to that. But for this morning, it just remains for me to say thank you for all of you for being here. Thank you for all the panelists for participating. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been inspired by some things. I hope you've met some new people and enjoyed the discussions. So please stay around, connect over lunch and coffee and so on. And I hope you all enjoy the awards ceremony this evening. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you.